Pratt with us. We now have the presence of a national Second Amendment and civil rights organization on the ground at the Capitol in New York State. I'd also like to acknowledge the Chairman of the Board of Directors for Gun Owners of America, New York, Michael Mastrogiovanni. We also have with us Donna McKay. She's a plaintiff in a federal lawsuit titled Donna McKay versus New York State. We also have with us today Paloma, a Capanna, attorney and policy analyst. The Civil Rights Restoration Act is a monumental joining of our civil rights with the Second Amendment. The U.S. Supreme Court has defined the Second Amendment as a fundamental right. We have put together language which ensures our civil rights, and we are presenting that to our legislature to incorporate the language into a bill to be drafted, numbered, sponsored, co-sponsored, and voted on. This is our goal. Some bit of information concerning the Civil Rights Restoration Act. It will define due process of law for all proceedings that could result in the loss of a handgun license or a firearm, to include notice, hearing, and right to counsel. 2, protect patient privacy against ongoing secret reporting of confidential medical information by healthcare workers to the New York State Police and FBI. New York State leads all states in the nation with a number of reports of people to NICS. In New York State, over 600,000 people have been either reported into ISARS, the Integrated Safe Act Reporting System, or NICS through the FBI. That is without the 2016 numbers being added in. And so if we're in a room with 40 people, odds are that a person has been reported. 3, amend the state's definition of family. That's right. To include parents, brothers, and sisters for purposes of firearms transfers. 4, expand the acceptable forms of identification for a handgun permit or a firearm sale to include fingerprints, as the Amish community is effectively not allowed by law to exchange firearms in any way. 5, repeal the handgun permit recertification program of the New York State Police. That is language in our bill. Rescind the non-operational ammunition background check of the New York State Police. At this time, we will hear from 3 of our panel today. First, we'll hear from Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America. After that, Michael Mastrogiovanni, Chairman of the Board of Gun Owners of America, New York, will address us. Then finally, Donna McKay, plaintiff in a federal lawsuit, will address us, after which we will have questions from the press. And we do have to vacate the room at 10:30, so we'll have to run smoothly through all these. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good to be here on behalf of Gun Owners of America and Washington, D.C. The kind of law that was rammed through your legislature in New York kind of reminds me of my wife's home country, which was a banana republic. They did things in a very similar fashion. In fact, the one time she voted, she saw the ballot box being carried away by armed soldiers. Naturally, the outcome of the election wasn't very suspenseful. The kind of tactics that are being used in this state by the governor and his party are reminiscent of Banana Republic. It may be too far north to grow bananas, but you're growing a Banana Republic here all the same. And that's going to be hard to market. In fact, New York is running counter to the political trends of this country. And it's quite likely, in fact, it's something we'll be lobbying for in Washington, that all federal funds connected with judicial expenditure, crime expenditures be cut, so that New York gets none of those federal funds. I'm sure other funds will be cut as well, but in our purview, that's one of the things that we will be after, because New York is running against due process, against the Second Amendment. And the main accomplishment of this law will be to see a continued increase in violent crime in the state, even while the rest of the country enjoys a decline in violent crime. But that's not something that seems to get in the mind of status, and that's certainly a polite designation for the governor and his supporters. But what they're doing is dangerous. It's something that the people of this country in the last election voted clearly against. An elite telling people that the elite knows better than the people, when something that they're telling them about is clearly protected by the Constitution in so many different ways. And so when they're that out of touch and that tone deaf, at least from the point of view of Washington, cutting is one of the nicer, less obtrusive ways of dealing with an out-of-control state. Hopefully, the politics of a banana republic are going to become so obnoxious that the heretofore liberal voting pattern of the state of New York will begin to change, and that the people will do in New York what was done nationally and throw off the yoke of the elitists. In the meantime, Gun Owners of America is going to be delighted to work with Gun Owners of America in New York to push this particular measure through. Obviously, it's not where we would like to be. Constitutional carry, where you don't need a permit to carry a gun, is where we need to be, where you don't need a permit, obviously, to buy a gun. The government has no business being involved in that. To make it comparable to the First Amendment, we would need to have a government bureaucrat approve the content of this press conference if we were to treat speech the same as we treat the Second Amendment. That is unacceptable, and it will remain unacceptable until it's been fixed, which means eliminated. So we're not interested in fixing and replacing, we're interested in cutting and stopping. Thanks very much.